So 53.85, the winning time in that third heat. And the Chinese here in the fourth of these four heats. Zhu in lane 4, Li in 5.